Hello, you're listening to Cheat Sheet, the podcast that cuts through the scroll, the shouting and the spin to bring you everything that's happening today in 10 minutes.
Good morning to you. I'm Kamali Melbourne, and there's plenty going on today, Anna, isn't there?
There is lots going on. I'm Anna Jones. It's Friday, the 7th of November. So talk us through what we're looking at today.
Well, look, the Prime Minister's had to defend his Justice Secretary, David Lammy, from those comments made in the Commons that didn't quite get to the truth of the matter as to what the government knew about the prisoner release earlier in the week.
Yeah, lots about prisons still in the news. Also, there were hundreds of protesters in Birmingham last night over that controversial Aston Villa match against Maccabi Tel Aviv.
And the legend that is Mary Earps, Mary Queen of Stops. Her book is out and she has talked about some of the controversy surrounding the publication of that book.
So, a serving prison governor has told Sky News that public safety is at risk because there's an increase in offenders being transferred to prisons with minimal security. Now, this is Mark Drury. He's been speaking in his role as representative for open prison governors at the Prison Governors Association, and he's saying that governors are seeing more absconds and also more failures to return when people go out on day release and they just don't come back.
Yeah, and as we were saying, the Justice Secretary David Lammy and Deputy Prime Minister, of course, has defended his decision to dodge those questions that he faced during the B Team's Prime Minister's questions earlier in the week, saying he wasn't equipped with all of the facts. I think he didn't want to get ahead of the Met, but the Met have hit back saying that that wasn't the case, and he could have quite easily said something. Now, he repeatedly ignored those queries coming from the Conservatives about the inmates and who had been let out, despite knowing that the two cases have been involved. Now, one of those men has now handed himself in. The manhunt continues for the other individual who is still at large, having been freed wrongly from Wandsworth Prison back at the end of October.
Well, yes, and these new warnings that public safety could be at risk because the rise of the number of prisoners who are being transferred to open prisons, to prisons with far lower security. It's another reminder, isn't it, Kamali, that this is a controversy around prisons that's not just about, failed bureaucracy, outdated systems when we see prisoners being released wrongly. It's also about victims and risks to the public. And we have to remember that some of these news stories will actually worry people. And it will add to the pressure that the Justice Secretary is under. As you say, that hunt for the Algerian sex offenders still goes on, of course. And the Justice Secretary, in the meantime, is keen to point out he's just 2 months in the job, and he will repeat that line that we hear often from the government, that these wrongful releases of prisoners is basically the fault of a failed system that they've inherited from the Conservatives. But it's not to say that he's not under a huge amount of pressure.
He's under huge amounts of pressure. And I don't think it's wrong for him to say that there is a system that they've inherited from the Conservatives. The problem with that argument is, of course, the Labour government are now in charge. It is now their problem to deal with. It's not a new problem that they are having to face it. Prisoners have been released mistakenly before. There has seemingly been an increase. They will say, the government, that this is because the system is creaking even more than ever before. It just sort of lays really bare and makes really plain how difficult it is for this government and any government to get a hold of the justice system, which is chronically underfunded and overstretched.
Now, the Met Police has again got to take a look at itself after another damning report is published today. A review of anti-black racism within the Metropolitan Police has found discrimination is baked in to the HR system. The probe has concluded that the force's systems, leadership, governance and culture are producing racial harm. This is an internal review, but it said that darker-skinned staff are labelled confrontational, while lighter-skinned staff may receive quicker empathy and leniency.
Now, I mean, you would be forgiven for thinking you've heard all of this before, because you probably have in the Casey review in 2023. And if you go back all the way to the Macpherson review from 1999, which found the Metropolitan Police was institutionally racist. This is just the latest example from an independent reviewer looking at the nation's biggest police force and finding there to be huge problems within its culture. Now, the chief of the Met, Mark Rowley, refused after the Casey review to use those words, that it was institutionally racist. He accepted that there were systemic failings, but one wonders now, with this latest review, whether or not he will be able to use those words, because it's damning. And again, it's undermining the trust of the public. This is the whole point in this force. It's a force that has to deal with minority communities that already don't trust the institution of the police. And this latest review, which is just as shocking yet again, will do nothing to gain more trust within those communities.
Well, that's right. And as you say, Mark Rowley does say that he's listening. He says he's acting. He says that trust amongst Black Londoners has gone up a bit. But as you say, decades of the same warnings, people will be wanting to actually see change. And the real question is, if racism is baked in, like this report says, how do you root it out?
All right, let's take us on to the next one then, Anna. We've got Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has been asked to appear for the US Congress. Politicians are asking him to answer questions about his relationship with the now dead paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Now, they've written to Andrew on the day that it was confirmed that he's been stripped of his title of Prince. Now, Andrew has always said that he's never done anything wrong in terms of his dealings with Epstein. The letter from the senior Democrat on the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform says financial records such as Massage for Andrew raise serious questions. They want him to appear, but they can't compel him to. He's a private citizen. This is the difficulty. And
it's just the Democrats on the committee, isn't it? It's the Republicans actually have distanced themselves from this call for Andrew to appear. So big questions about whether or not he will. And of course, it all serves as another massive distraction for the royal family. Prince William is a cop. He's handed out his Earthshot Prize, something that's very dear to him. And once again, Andrew is hitting the headlines.
He certainly is. There was some football last night. We had a game in Birmingham as Maccabi Tel Aviv travelled to play Aston Villa. Now, you'll know that there was a decision to ban away fans from going to that game. Now, last night there were 11 arrests as Villa won the game by 2-0. Pro-Palestinian protests were held outside the stadium, outside Villa Park. Some people are holding placards saying Zionists not welcome here. Now, pro-Israeli groups also gathered near the ground. One was seen carrying an Israeli flag, while others were holding posters saying keep anti-Semitism out of football, where fans of the Israeli club, of course, as we say, were banned because of safety concerns. We've got some clarity now as to why the police thought that this ban was important.
Well, that's right. West Midlands Police Commander Chief Superintendent Tom Joyce has blamed the ban on there being significant levels of hooliganism amongst the Maccabi fans and not the threat of violence towards their fans. So interesting clarification from the police as to why they fed in that advice to this safety board in Birmingham.
Yeah, and interesting that came the night of the game. Sticking with football, Mary Queen of Stops.
Mary Queen of Stops, former England goalkeeper, of course. She's got a book out. You may have read some about it because its publication has brought all sorts of headlines, hasn't it? Some of which she won't necessarily have wanted. She's touched on her shock retirement. Is obviously a shock to everybody else, but she's explained a little bit about the backstory about that just before the big tournament. And she's actually been speaking about it to our sports correspondent, Jackie Beltrao.
That sort of situation can play merry hell with, like your mental health and the way you feel about yourself. And you start questioning everything. What have I done? What have I done wrong? What can I do better? And those were also the questions I was asking because I was desperately trying to get clarity.
Well, look, the book is out. Some of the headlines I don't think she will be welcoming because it does seem as if she's been critical of the boss, Serena Wiegman, and of the person who replaced her in goal, Hannah Hampton.
Well, that's right. And it's really interesting, this, isn't it? Because we've seen the Lionesses as this sort of golden, unstoppable team, full of good vibes. We've seen all their celebrations are just so joyful. And they've inspired this younger generation of girls to play, of course. But I guess her honesty and her transparency in this book, it just shows that there are going to be tensions and struggles behind the scene, like I imagine you have with any team, really.
Yeah, it's bound to happen. I mean, the inspiration that this team have brought to the nation, not just the girls, of boys as well, remains in place. But of course, these are professional sports people, and there will be competition, there will be issues, there will be huge egos involved in the squad as well. So it's probably not surprising, but you're right. It's kind of the first breaking down of what we saw from those Lionesses as this super united team. Now, and let's move on to this. Yesterday, Sophie have told you all about the Tesla shareholders giving Elon Musk $1 trillion as a pay award. It's amazing.
I
And
know.
it's been signed off.
It's now been signed off, absolutely. It'll be the largest corporate payout in history if he meets the goals necessary to receive it. But that's quite an incentive, isn't it?
It's not bad. I'd do whatever it takes to get that pay award.
Good to know, Kamali.
There you go.
I'm sure the bosses are probably thinking about it now.
Yeah, I hope so.
Did you watch the Traitors final?
I'm trying to avoid all the spoilers on this.
There are no spoilers on this podcast. No
No?
spoilers.
Good.
Don't worry about it. You are trying to avoid the spoilers, and you have this idea that you're going to watch the whole series at Christmas
With the family, yes.
and avoid any giveaways. How's that going so far? Then?
Terribly. I already know, but we won't ruin it for you guys. Anna, the big question is, if you were in the show, traitor or faithful?
I think I'd want to be a faithful. I find it
Sames.
too stressful
Sames.
to be a traitor.
Absolutely. Well, at least we agree on that. Well, that's it from today's Cheat Sheet. If you've got a story you'd like us to cover, get in touch. Our email address is cheatsheet@sky.uk. And remember to listen to the feed so you never miss an episode.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.